One very fascinating thing that we saw during the pandemic was a true evolution of media consumption that usually would have taken 10 to 15 years to happen. Our older generations overnight went online to social media. It literally was, okay, this is the only way I'm going to be able to stay in touch with family. This is the only way I'm going to be able to see what information I need to see. And they were on social media overnight. But one of the very key phenomenons that also took place is a reintroduction of traditional elements to our younger generations as if they were new platforms. So they went in and they started looking at, local TV and radio. There's a local TV station that will tell me what my counts are what in my town for COVID. And who knew, right? And yeah, local TV will give me this update. Local radio on my drive-in. Did you guys know that these morning shows will tell me what's going on? And these different, it's crazy to me, these things that took place, but young generations all of a sudden rediscovered that there was some traditional platforms that had some information that they wanted. And the older generations discovered the social platforms and the digital platforms of the information that they wanted. The very fascinating thing too, one extra layer to this is our older generations didn't get rid of the consumption of traditional formats. They just added what they were consuming their media by. And the same thing happened with the younger generation. They didn't stop being on social or Instagram or any of those things, Snapchat, any of those other things that they've been on. They just added. And so now they have become consumer habits. So we can't ignore an omnichannel approach.
This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hello, Team PYP. Mary Lou Kaiser here. Welcome to another episode of the Play Your Position podcast, where we talk all things leadership, and today is no exception. I have a wonderful guest who's full of energy. She's coming to us from Anchorage, Alaska, and she's going to take us inside her leadership journey, as well as all the things in between. Her name is Ann Pruitt. Ann, are you ready for kickoff?
I am so excited and ready to get this started and have an amazing conversation.
Yeah, I am too. So team, here's some things I know about Ann. Like I said, she lives in Anchorage, Alaska, and she is the CEO and president at Mosaic Media, which is a collection of media buying experts and creative strategists who negotiate, purchase, and monitor advertising space and airtime. Ann started her career in media by working as a senior sales executive for some of the nation's largest media outlets. After discovering her talent and love for all things media strategy, she founded Mosaic as a way to provide niche expert experience to agencies and marketing departments across the country. Now, one of the things that she likes to talk about is it's not all digital today, that traditional media outlets still have relevance. So we're going to get into that. She has been named a top woman in media, and she's helped develop effective marketing strategies for agencies of all sizes, including small businesses, service businesses, private educational institutions, legal and professional service businesses, along with many others. So if you are looking to learn about how do you make the most of your media strategy, Ann is the one to listen to today. And so Ann, I am so excited that you're here, and I can't wait to hear about your leadership journey.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Lou. I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be fun.
It is. And so right out of the gate, why don't you tell us that story? When did you get the call to leadership? What was going on in your life? How old were you? Were there some very specific events that led to it? Or was it a more organic, gradual unveiling when you realized, hey, I'm actually a leader? Tell us what happened.
What I love about leadership stories is everybody's journey is just different, right? We may have some similarities in our fabric, but at the same time, we all have different things that lead us to get there. Growing up, I played sports. I was, in the oldest of the second. I come from a large family, but I was the oldest of the second batch of kids. So that automatically gets you that kind of a leadership role in that front, but you're really the middle child. So you have different things that go in that. But, really, truly, a lot of things that it's funny because I look through my journey and I had leadership throughout my journey, but it's pivotal points within my journey that you go, okay, that's where I learned. That's where I learned the most. That's where I learned the leader that I was. And it's the pieces that in the stories that you see of any difficult time. And in my case, our company actually mid founding had a difficult bump, and we had some trust issues going on with someone that worked here. And that for me was a pivotal turning point of showing myself and proving to myself of the leader that I was. And it's so amazing to me because now I look at it, as one of the hardest times for me personally and leadership wise, but at the same time, it was one of the best times because it showed me 100% how I could be a leader, how I could lead a team that was scared, how I could lead a team that didn't know what was going to happen next. Our trust was betrayed. We had somebody that wasn't being honest with us and doing things that they shouldn't. And the leadership that came out of me was something that I didn't even know I had. And that's probably the biggest piece, I think, as leaders as a whole, is that leader is inside of us. And that's the best leadership moment that I realized. And it was later on in my career. I'd always seen things of leadership before that. Little things here or there. You see that gift is a gift. I'm a big believer that it is. And when the aha of I have to do this and everybody is depending on me, you find that beast, that inner leader inside of you that you didn't even know you had.
Wow. So could you take us into what were some of the things about yourself when you look at that pivotal time, the Mary Ann before that very challenging time, and the Mary Ann that you are today as a leader? Like, if you could get more granular,
sure.
I'm so
Absolutely.
fascinated by what were some of the narratives that you were, having in your head. And did you look primarily outside yourself for inspiration, or did you go more internal and say, this beast is in me and I can rise? And a beast isn't always a bad thing.
No, it's not. And I think, my mom used to always tell me when I was younger, I remember her say, because I played sports, right? And she'd be like, that beast is in there and it's okay. Let it out. Let it out. Mm-hmm. And I remember, and I'd be like, no, I'm supposed to be, timid and quiet. And no, that's not necessarily what I'm supposed to be. The things that I learned, the Mary Ann before would not necessarily speak up if I needed to, would let somebody, say something or do something and I was like, no, I'm just going to choose my battles on it. Do I still selectively choose my battles on what I'm going to do? Yes. But I'm going to call out when things need to be called out. So the confidence of the Mary Ann before, which I thought was very strong, frankly, in the middle of that, I thought, I was extremely confident. I knew what I was doing. I did call things out, but not to the level of which I should. And what I learned through challenging times and through that process was, you know what you're doing, who you are, and you absolutely 100% can confidently defend that and say that. There's no question there. And it's a matter of, and what I learned so keenly was, what was I anchored to? Was I anchored to things of negativity that were holding me back? See, an anchor serves a purpose. I'm a big believer in this. It serves a purpose. An anchor holds you still, right? You're supposed to be rooted in things. If you look at the boat analogy of an anchor, it's holding you still during a storm, or you're just out recreating, whatever it is. But an anchor serves a purpose, but you need to be anchored in the right things. That's your family. That's your morals. That's your ethics. That's who you are as a fabric. You don't need to be anchored by things that are holding you back. And when you are honest with yourself of what is holding you back, you realize, that anchor needs to get cut. And that anchor needs to get cut. And that anchor needs to get cut because it's holding me back. It's not holding me where I need to be. It is holding me back. And that is a key thing that I learned through this journey is there are people that are going to hold you back. There are situations that are going to hold you back. It is all in how you react to that. And you decide in the confidence of, I got this and I know what I'm doing. and I'm going to lead a team through this. And it really is the confidence level of what you can see in yourself and just believe in yourself. Outside inspiration was a big thing for me, but at the same time, it was the internal, I guess, the rediscovery of who I really am, that inner beast. And knowing, you know what, it is okay to have that inner beast come alive. Because like you said, an inner beast is not a bad thing necessarily. If you are rooted and anchored in all those right things of who you are and who your morals are and who your ethics are, you know absolutely that you have no problem going forward and showing that inner beast and standing up for what you need and what you believe in.
Yes. Oh, and it's so interesting that you live in Anchorage,
yes.
Anchorage, Alaska. That you're and anchors do serve a purpose, and then there are those, as you were just describing, that no longer serve us. And having the confidence and having the faith that by severing that chain, you're going to be okay. In fact, you're going to be way better than okay.
Exactly. And taking that step of faith in yourself and in everything that you know, it's okay. It's that, it's the, I can't think of the Indiana Jones moment where he just steps out and then, the rock appears for him to walk on. At times we have to do that. We have to take that step of faith knowing, okay, you know what? I'm not 100% sure what my next step is, but I'm going to take this step. I'm going to head down this journey and see where we're going. And I need to cut anything that's holding me back from doing that. And we oftentimes talk ourselves out of good things just because, and there's no real good reason to do it other than we're afraid or we're fearful or we're nervous. And taking that step and saying, you know what? No, I'm going to try that. I'm going to step out on that limb. I'm going to see how this looks. And before you know it, journeys just take you through it. It's one step at a time. And that's all you have to go through.
It is. I love the Indiana Jones moment. That's a beautiful analogy. And we don't have just one in our lives. You had that moment at that time and it prepared you for future challenges. And I know you're a mother as well as a businesswoman.
Yep.
And, we all have leadership shows up for us in many of the roles that we play in life. And one isn't necessarily, completely different than the other. There is that crossover. And the work that you do at Mosaic Media, Mary Ann, is really important to all kinds of business. I would love for you to talk about how, as a leader in media buying and also how businesses can grow through advertising, right? Yep. Through marketing, getting the word out, building awareness of their existence. Could you talk about, I'm really fascinated, particularly by that marketing myth, traditional media is dead, how to use digital and traditional together.
Yep. In today's world, we are so concerned about how to reach everybody. And we're so married to one tactic or another, where really you need an omnichannel approach. And I love, Mary Lou, what you just said, that the leadership is in all of us and through that journey and in every single piece of our life. We have to show that leadership, right? And that is it looks different every day for everybody. And that's one thing that's amazing is the evolution of our own leadership style and who we are is so critical for us to all be self-aware of. And, and even professionally, if I'm looking at, okay, strategically, what does this client need to do to make sure that they're reaching all of their target audiences and who they're going after and making sure that their budget is reasonable for what they need to stay within. And that's a form of leadership too, right? And so we have to look in these journeys. And the fact is that we have so many generations now in the workplace that we haven't had before. So we have 5 working generations.
Yes.
This is a phenomenon. This has never been anything that we have ever dealt with worldwide. That means we have 5 generations with spending capabilities and 5 generations that influence each other one way or the other. But at the same time, I cannot reach the 79-year-old man the same way I do the 16-year-old boy.
Right.
And I cannot reach the 35-year-old woman the same way I'm reaching those two. And in today's world, we have the amazing opportunity to be able to target digitally, right? Gone are the days of just looking at the demographics of, I need to target a woman 25 to 54 years old. That 25-year-old woman and that 54-year-old woman are two totally different people. And we cannot target them the same way. I can target now digitally via persona. What are they looking at? What are they doing? What is their life? What are they shopping for? What are they driving? What is their income? How many children do they have? Do they have any kids? Are they just professional? Well, who is my target persona in that? And then I'm layering on traditional elements on top of that to make sure that you have all the above, so that you are reinforcing everything you are targeting. So you're targeting everything through digital, and then you're reinforcing it with an overall brand recognition within the audiences and share of where they're going to be listening otherwise. And we are forgetting it's either or. I see a lot of media plans that are like either or. It's never, it's very rare that both are in the plan. And most often what it is that media buyers and media planners and strategists actually are strong in one area or the other. They're not strong in both. And in reality is you need to have this omnichannel approach that we have some traditional in this and some digital in this. And we need to have that focus. They both have their strengths.
Okay, two questions come to mind. First of all, would you be willing to name the 5 generations really fast, just so listeners have the context? And then could you give an example or two of each kinds of media that listeners, might consider, they might already be using, but just to hear what those differences are?
Yep. Absolutely. So you have your traditionalists, your baby boomers, your Gen Xers, your millennials, and your Gen Z/Digi generation. That's our youngest generation that is now in their teens, but they're working. And the one thing that's very fascinating is the traditionalist generation. So these are right after World War II. They're still working. They may be almost 80 years old, but they're like, you know what? I retired. Now I have a retirement project. And I'm in my late 70s. I really don't want to be done completely because I'm still healthy. I still feel 50. And so they are working. And then you have the younger generation that's entering the workforce earlier than what they would normally be entering in generation of what past generations have done. And so that's that Digi generation. They have never known anything different but anything digital. And everything is there. Now, one fascinating thing real quick, Mary Lou, before I get into like overall tactics and various things, one very fascinating thing that we saw during the pandemic was a true evolution of media consumption that usually would have taken 10 to 15 years to happen. Our older generations overnight went online to social media. It literally was, okay, this is the only way I'm going to be able to stay in touch with family. This is the only way I'm going to be able to see what information I need to see. And they were on social media overnight. But one of the very key phenomenons that also took place is a reintroduction of traditional elements to our younger generations as if they were new platforms. So they went in and they started looking at, local TV and radio. There's a local TV station that will tell me what my counts are what in my town for COVID. And who knew, right? And local TV will give me this update. Local radio on my drive-in. Did you guys know that these morning shows will tell me what's going on? And these different, it's crazy to me, these things that took place. But young generations all of a sudden rediscovered that there was some traditional platforms that had some information that they wanted. And the older generations discovered the social platforms and the digital platforms of the information that they wanted. The very fascinating thing too, one extra layer to this is our older generations didn't get rid of the consumption of traditional formats. They just added what they were consuming their media by. And the same thing happened with the younger generation. They didn't stop being on social or Instagram or any of those things, Snapchat, any of those other things that they've been on. They just added. And so now they have become consumer habits. So we can't ignore an omni-channel approach.
Oh my gosh. I think based on what you're saying, I mean, my head is going in a million different directions. I'm thinking, what does this mean on a large scale? And maybe it sounds like you just answered it. The omni-channel is really where you have to be. You have to consider all areas, not one or the other, as you were saying before. It's not an either or, it's an and.
Yep, exactly. And where are they best there? But the great thing is, Mary Lou, too, is that our budgets are actually we're able to target more with it. Before when I started my career, I was very young. And now I feel like now I'm like, wow, I'm the older person in the room. And it's very interesting because I remember being the way younger person in the room.
Yep.
When I started, TV and radio and print were the thing. Like newspapers were huge. It was like, it was a busting, booming business. And now, newspapers are having a hard time. Although I will predict that we will have some sort of local comeback but it'll just be consumed differently. But with that, you look at it and you have to have that omnichannel approach. But then we had a shotgun approach where it was I need my target audience is a woman 25 to 54. Okay, so I'm going to pull a ranker for all those radio stations and where I need to put them. And okay, that works great. But now I can hyper-focus that. I can hyper-focus, okay, where are my top-rated stations? And then now what is my digital doing to support that, where I am hyper-targeting with my digital and then overall branding with my traditional. And that is the piece that all of these elements of the puzzle have to come together and play a part.
And that's what you help your clients do, is you come up with a customized strategy based that's aligned with the goals that they have, their budget, their, projections, where they've been, what's worked, what hasn't, all that stuff. It's not just a one size fits all approach. It's really sitting down and saying, let's take a look. And it's awesome that you identified. I mean, I can remember in my early days of being in business, having those sweeping, those sweeping age gaps of, we're trying to target people from, like you were saying, 25 to 54. Hello, 25-year-olds are barely just beginning to figure out who they are. 54-year-olds know who they are. They've been through the gauntlet. They've probably had kids or been divorced, married, traveled, several different careers.
Yep.
How on earth can you just lump all of those people together? Sure, they may all listen to Led Zeppelin. Like that's the one thing they have in common.
Exactly.
But other than that, their desires and wants are very, very different. And I know from having conversations with people who may be in more traditional businesses like construction or any kind of the trades, using digital platforms is so anathema to what they do.
Yeah.
Because they're out in the field, they're face to face with people, but yet embracing the new way of getting the word out, you're either going to evolve or you're going to die. I mean,
you are spot on. If you're not evolving, and so take the services industry. So many people, for years, people are like, well, business to business, if I'm going to be B2B at all, I'm not going to be able to target with advertising. I'm not going to be able to do the things that I need to do. And now you can target by profession. So if you're targeting a C-suite within, let's say you're targeting, a very specific, you mentioned construction. Let's say most of your target audience is going to be a C-suite, just executives, and overall, like maybe even in a specific sector of finance or a specific sector of a specific industry. You are able now, the data is there to target that. And so if you're not taking advantage of that, then you're not evolving, and somebody will. And somebody is going to start doing it. And I mean, this is where competitive analysis starts coming in. This is where all of these different pieces on the digital front, the research that we have available to us is just incredible. And it's one of those things where you look at it and you go, okay, if I would have had this research 20 years ago, oh my word.
Right.
But it's, the research, the data, we have so much, we can look at what your competitors are doing. How much are they spending? How much are they going out there and doing? And what creative and what message are they using? Like, these are the types of tools that we've created that we use and utilize in-house to help you develop that plan. And it's so important. And I love what you said. If you're not evolving, you're dying. You have to evolve into this, and you have to embrace this. And start looking at, okay, who am I targeting? And that it sounds so basic, but the first question you need to be asking is, who is my ideal customer? Period. That is one thing that has not changed. But now add layers to it. Is my ideal customer a woman that, between the ages of 25 and 54? No, instead, it's my ideal customer is a woman that's 37 years old that has a certain amount of income. She drives a minivan, but she is thinking about an SUV because her kids are getting older. And go down the layers. She's commuting. She's, this many hours a week. She has what grocery store she's going to. What are the layers that you are putting on this ideal customer? Think all the way down that journey. And it doesn't matter if it's B2B or B2C. That is where you need to paint, okay, this is my persona. This is what I'm targeting. And your media plan needs to target that and go after that.
It's halftime here at the Play Your Position podcast, and we've got ourselves a great game. While you're up grabbing another snack and topping off your favorite beverage, make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss another play. PYP is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts can be found. Now, let's get back to the game.
What you just described is, for so many people, so beyond the scope of their, daily life to really, think about that. And then there's also a fear factor of, if I narrow it down to something so specific, I'm leaving so much on the table. And I know you could speak to this. It's actually the opposite. The more specific, the more specific you get, the wider the net becomes. It's a very strange paradox, but it does work.
It does work. And it's exactly what you should be focusing on. And, for us, that's why, we work with brands directly. We also work with ad agencies to assess what your media is and how you are operating and how is your media team operating. But what are you doing to make sure that you're servicing your clients the way they need to? We come in and assess, or at times we offload it. And we become their media arm, because it is becoming so specialized that you need to have the right media partner to drive you down this journey and to make sure that you are headed in the right direction of, okay, this is what this journey is. And I can't be scared of this funnel. I need to embrace it. I need to know it. And I need to be able to know and identify who that ideal persona is that I'm targeting.
Yes. The embracing of the tools that exist. I would love for you to talk about, this is tied to what you were just describing, for businesses, particularly small businesses who have limited budgets, right?
Yeah.
They don't have the deep pockets that, say, a Fortune 50 company does, like the Apples of the world and the Googles of the world, where they can buy enormous amounts of, I call them like ad share on television, where, they have a creative team that comes up with really clever and funny situations, and they hire all kinds of actors, or they actually create a persona like Flo from Progressive, or, the little gecko from Geico, those are huge campaigns with a ton of money dumped into them. And, based on what I shared in your introduction, you work with small businesses, you work with nonprofits and people who traditionally aren't, they need to be out doing what they're good at, but they want to grow.
Right.
And if they're not building a deeper awareness that they exist, their competition, who may be doing that, is going to perhaps attract. My question around this is, if all this information is readily available to everybody, how does a company differentiate today? Well, how do you get noticed when you, first of all, you have very little, 3 seconds to even make a dent?
Yeah.
And if everybody has the same access to the data and can create a campaign around the same persona, how on earth do you know, how do you differentiate to the point where you actually begin to see a return on your investment?
So first, talking about the one thing of opportunity that we have now that we didn't before is the hyper targeting, right? And we are able to take the digital data that we know and hyper focus that means your budget is actually being spent in a level and where you want it to be, and you're able to see the specific results. You are able to see what that conversion tracking looks like. You're able to see all these tags that are on the ads, various things that we put on them to make sure that, okay, this funnel, this is working, and optimizing and various pieces. Your budget doesn't have to be huge to do that. Where 20 years ago, you had to do a big TV campaign to make a splash. You had to do a big radio campaign to make a splash, and a print. And that was the omnichannel, was TV, radio, and print. Now, with the data that is available to us, even with things changing and evolving on data, you still have so much data available that you are able to spend your budget more wisely and really focus on what it is. So a lot of times, smaller brands are more nervous to put their toe in that water because they're worried about it actually being wasted, because every dollar matters, and every dollar matters it doesn't matter what size you are, but it especially matters when you're a nonprofit or when you are a smaller business, and every little piece of what you're looking for is there. And you have to get that return, right? And you have to see it, and it's a tangible thing for you to see. The biggest piece and going and looking at it of how do you make sure it's not wasted, and if all these personas are available to everybody, it goes back to your point of the more niche you can get, the more focused you can get, the more narrowed down of who that persona targeted is, actually, the more beneficial you're going to get. It's a bigger pond for you. The more focus that you can get. And the way you go through this journey is literally look at, okay, these are who my customers are. And here are my top 10 that I absolutely love. These are the ones when this is who we're targeting. This is who we want to be. This is where we go. Look at what their personal habits are. Look at what they are. Because the other thing is too, especially if you're in professional services, we oftentimes are thinking strictly about where they are at work. We are not thinking about what their habits are outside of work. What are they doing personally? Where can I get them in a way of making a decision that is outside of the workplace, where they are maybe in a personal setting, but now their brain is turned on to something personal and thinking personal, and I'm in my personal setting, but I get served an ad that is in my professional world, and because my brain's not so inundated in work, it pays attention to me. I'm looking at it differently than I was before. And it's these little creative tactics and things of finding where your consumer is, and how do we then make their brain see our ads stand out more. And your budget does go further the more you narrow that down, and your budget does go further knowing, okay, the more I target, the better it is. Yes, other people have all this data, but it's like a fingerprint. The odds of us all duplicating the exact same layers of programmatic targeting is actually slim, because there's so many layers that you can add.
That's neat. I like the fingerprint analogy, that there's no reason to be afraid that if you have an abundance mindset, there's plenty to go around. It's like the pie doesn't shrink. It actually grows. It's weird.
It is.
It really is weird. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So you've been doing this work for quite some time. You've been in the world. You have seen the changes that have occurred over the years from moving from primarily us consumers receiving the messaging through television, radio, or print. And now we get those messages through those channels still, but we on top of it have Facebook and Instagram and email and TikTok. I mean, all these platforms that have evolved. As you look into your crystal ball, Mary Ann, what do you see coming down the pike, without giving away any of your trade secrets, of course, because, I want you to talk openly as you can about patterns and trends that you see that you haven't brought up yet on our conversation, because you brought up some really good things for people to consider. I love your emphasis on the 5 generations in the workplace. I love that you really have emphasized it's an omnichannel approach now, that you can't rule out, if you're a more traditionalist, you can't rule out digital. If have been more of a digital native, you can't rule out things like print. They still, people still get mail, for example, right? Yep. Direct mail marketing can make a difference in a business if you do it right. Right. But when you look at some of these trends, especially in a post-pandemic world, what do you think is going to have a big impact on the way we show up to living our lives, buying our products, making business decisions?
There's no doubt that we saw a huge evolution of consumer behavior during the pandemic. People went through, like I said earlier, this is an evolution that overnight took place that would have taken 10 years or more to do. And that's just on the media consumption side. But let's talk about habits. Let's talk about what was changed there. It was not common to have your groceries delivered to you, or to have, to think of the restaurant that didn't offer delivery to have it delivered to you. That is a consumer habit change. That is a different change where people are like, oh yeah, no, I haven't stepped foot in a grocery store in over a year because either I pick it up or it gets delivered to me. And that is a habit. That is a habit change that is, I think, here to stay. People are all going to be about convenience. The other thing, Mary Lou, that I think is so crucial that we as leaders need to pay attention to is the overall blend of life and work, and how it has blended more now than it ever has. Where for a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody's like, oh, right, this is awesome. This is exciting. This is great. I can work from home. I'm more effective. I'm more efficient. I'm getting so much done. A couple of years into it, we have more exhausted people. We have people that are tired. They don't know, they forget, oh my word, I need to clock off now. I need to be done for the day because it's 7:00 at night. And how did that happen? I've been working a 13-hour day and I didn't even know it. And that is happening more and more. And that's not just, it's happening on the leadership level, but that's happening to our employees as well, that we need to pay attention to. And therefore it's happening to our consumers. So as marketers, we have to pay attention to that everybody is over inundated with stuff. They're busier than they have ever been. One common thread of anybody I talk to right now is, I'm just so busy. I feel so busy. And it's so ironic that this put us into the biggest busy spiral we've been in a long time.
It is. And boy, I've had those conversations too. Yeah. The exhaustion. I'm going to echo that. Absolutely. So what do you think? What can help us do better?
Yeah, I think, it gets into, where my thoughts are of, where do I look as a leader and what's important as leadership of what we focus on? What are 3 things that we definitely focus on? But we always talked about, life-work balance. Frankly, right now, that is the biggest discussion that needs to be taking place because there's no such thing. There's no such thing as life.
Never has been.
Yes, exactly. Everybody goes, life-work balance. No, it is self-management. And I heard somebody I sat on a plane with once, and he goes, I hate it when people say time management. And I was like, why? Why do you hate that? And he goes, because you can't manage time. Time is time. Mm-hmm. It is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 a year. Because you can't manage that. You can manage your behavior for what you are doing with that time. And that is where it's the cycle back. And where, I have the self-control of what I can do. I have the self-control of how I'm leading my team to do what I need to do. And that is a key piece right now that in our society, we need to, as leaders, we all need to be singing from this book because of the fact that people are looking to us on that, and we have to find this balance where people are burnt out right now. So,
yes.
And as leaders, we have to pay attention to that. And as brands, we have to pay attention to that. Convenience is going to be key. Why do we think the habits of having groceries delivered now it's a habit, because that convenience is key. Me going to the grocery store for an hour and a half with my kids is not nearly as key as me just having it delivered, because I just want it done. I'm going to order the same thing I ordered last week. I'm going to get it done. Right?
I just want it done. Yeah, that's the battle cry of everybody. Oh man.
And it is where everybody is now, where we all have to look at, it's not the balance. It is, how are we managing our lives? How are we managing our time? What are we doing with the time we have? And how do we become more efficient in that? And are we saying yes to too many things? I feel like, we're a broken record of 5 years ago of, work-life balance. But in reality, it is worse than it was 5 years ago. I've never seen more people exhausted. And we as leaders need to make sure and pay attention to the fact of people are exhausted for multiple reasons. There's an emotional exhaustion. What we just all went through, we all need to acknowledge was hard, scary, and we lost people we loved. We lost people we knew. There's a lot of emotional baggage that has taken place in the last 2 years that we really are not acknowledging or dealing with as a society.
Right. We all have PTSD now.
We do.
Everybody has PTSD.
Yeah.
To one degree or another. It's absolutely true.
There was a level of trauma that took place for every person. Yes. And we as leaders have to look at that and we have to pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm. We do. It's what you're saying is such a great segue, especially with the time management, into my touchdown question, which we're at that part of the show where there are less than 30 seconds left on the clock, Marianne, and you and your team are down by 4 points. So it's now or never if you're going to get this thing done. Please tell us a story about a time when you helped facilitate getting that ball into the metaphorical end zone for the game-winning touchdown.
So it's so funny that we started talking about niches because that is exactly what I wrote down of what I was going to talk about, what my touchdown was. The pivotal key moment of do or die, what's going to happen, where are we going to focus? And I can remember the date, September 27th, 2017, when I made this decision. I remember it very clearly of we are going to niche down and this is what we are going to do and this is what we're going to focus on. And it has changed everything. And and so I know for a fact that it works because I did it myself. And when you take that focus and it is that, you're going through it, like I talked about my leadership story and where I found that inner beast, it was, towards the end of that portion of it where it was like, okay, this is do or die. I am facing myself in the mirror going, what am I going to do? How am I going to happen? How is this going to happen? How is everything going to work? And I embraced it and tested it real quick to see what would happen. And just went full throttle towards it. And it's amazing overnight. It's what happens. You start focusing on that. You start focusing on what you're good at. You start focusing on who you need to target. And it happens and it works. That pool that you think is smaller is really gigantic. Yes. And it just starts opening up more and more for you, more and more. And you just open that door. So that touchdown moment is I've always been a solutions person where there's always a solution to a problem, always a solution. And that touchdown moment for me was more than just there's a solution. It was, okay, this is scary and it's a step of faith. And I had to lead my team in this of guys, we are changing how we operate. We are 100% changing who we are, how we operate, and how we're going to go forward. And now I look at it and go, wow, I'm so thankful we did it. But we wouldn't be who we are today without it. And to me, there's no bigger touchdown in that. Of course, there's other personal touchdowns, being a mom and things like that.
Sure.
These little moments in your life that you look at, and the little moments are always the big moments later and the big memories later. But, that for me, career-wise, that touchdown it literally changed who we were, and it was a win. And it's continued to be a win.
Well, thank you for reemphasizing that time in your life and putting it into context. It's so inspirational. And that's what I strive to do here at PYP is put some inspiration into the world that nothing's impossible. Every problem has a solution. And sometimes it does come down to asking, it's a question I ask myself all the time is, I say, Mary Lou, who do you have to become in order to solve this problem? Because you can't solve it from who you are right now.
Right.
And that's exactly what you did, Marianne. And I do want to give a shout out really quickly before we kind of wind things down here that you and I are both 2-word names and it's awesome. Yes.
And I love every bit about it. And, my grandmother's name was Mary Lou and it's my namesake. And so I always feel a special bond with 2 names.
That's right. That's right. We're rare in the world. It's awesome.
We are. We have a special bond for sure.
We do. Well, for people listening who'd like to learn more about you, Marianne, where do you hang out online?
Yeah, so you can check me out on Twitter at Media Maps, MAPS, Or if you want to reach out to me directly, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all different social platforms, but contact me directly. You can go to our website at mosaic.agency/contact. That comes straight to my email. I'm happy to have any conversation around leadership, around media, what we can do to help you in that focus. And don't be scared of your budget's too small or your budget's too big. We work with all the above and really guiding you down that journey of finding your persona and where you want to be in that strategy and making sure that your ad budgets are being spent the way they need to be spent.
Wonderful. So team, you know that those links will be available on Mary Ann's show notes page at pyppodcast.com. And she's got a lot of great experience and is helping many businesses of all kinds. So if media spend is something that either is new to you or you just haven't gotten results in the way that you hoped or expected, reach out and see how she might be able to help you. And before we say goodbye, Mary Ann, I would love for you to tell us who your team is, who or what do you like to watch on either Saturday and or Sunday?
Yes, I bleed green. I am an Eagles fan. I am a diehard. As a South Jersey girl, I am a diehard Eagles fan.
It's wonderful. I know we're recording this in April, and so we're coming up on the NFL draft, and you know, training camp is still several months away. But all of us football fans do in the off season enjoy kind of the following who's moving where and what's possible for our team. And then in the meantime, if you're a sports fan, baseball season just started. So you can enjoy that.
We all, we are a big baseball and football family and basketball. Actually, for us, we're just sports. We just love sports.
Woo, me too. Sports is always on around here.
We love to cheer on somebody.
That's right. That's awesome. Well, listen, Marian, this has just been so fun and in depth, and you enlightened me and I'm sure listeners about the way the media landscape has changed, what we can anticipate coming, and how we can take advantage of it now. And I want to thank you for your time and wish you continued success on your leadership journey.
Thank you so much for having me. And I've just enjoyed this time so much.
Hey team, Mary Lou here. Who's number one in football changes from year to year. Fashion trends come and go, same with musical tastes, but leadership skills, they never go out of style. In fact, these days, leadership is an essential survival skill for a world that demands more from us than ever before. To succeed these days, you need to know how to show up for yourself so that you can then do the work you love with people you like the way you want. The Play Your Position Leadership Playbook helps you do this, and it's free. Go to pyppodcast.com to download your copy today. If being more successful this year, next year, in the 21st century is on your to-do list, get your copy of the Play Your Position Leadership Playbook now. pyppodcast.com. It's at the top of the page. You can't miss it. That's pyppodcast.com, and start being more of the leader you are meant to be today. This podcast was produced by Daniel Romeros. Show notes for this episode can be found over at pyppodcast.com. I'm Mary Lou Kaiser. Thanks for listening.
Here at the Play Your Position podcast, we believe that the road to self-mastery and a life well lived starts with answering the call to leadership. That's when the fun really begins. Send this episode to any friends who might need to hear the inspiration and ideas you heard today. And feel free to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform.